Hello and welcome to dailystraits.com. I'm June Ramli and today we're delighted to be joined by Faye Tan, the founder of Mama Movement Australia, a clothing line that creates fashionable exercise outfits. So Mama Movement Australia is known for its vibrant, colorful, and comfortable activewear that is designed to help women feel confident and beautiful while they exercise. In this episode, we'll be discussing how Mama Movement got its start and the inspiration behind the brand's colorful activewear, how the company is making an impact in the fashion industry, and much more. So let's get started. So, hi, Faye. Thank you for joining us today. How are you?
Hi, June. I'm really good. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So, let's dive right in. So, can you tell us a little bit about how Mama Movement Australia got its start?
Sure. So, Mama Movement is actually a passion project that I started 3 years ago. I finished university and I ended up in a corporate role for 10 years. And I think I had chosen that as like my safe path because I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. And I landed up in a corporate career where I was doing really well, actually. So in that 10 years, I built up a really solid career. I was a senior manager at the time, leading a very large team and earning quite a bit of money in the process. But something felt missing. Like I felt that I wasn't living a life that I was proud of because I wasn't necessarily doing something that I really, truly felt passionate about. And I had a daughter at the time and she was just turning 2. And I was looking at her and thinking to myself, like, I never want her to grow up thinking she needs to play it safe with her life and choose money over happiness. And so I thought I would take a risk. I left that job and decided I would pursue what I called my passion project, which is now known as Mama Movement. And it is all about a colorful, inclusive, and sustainable activewear label that is about celebrating body positivity and really rethinking our approach to activewear and exercise and making it fun again.
Okay, so was it before the pandemic that you quit your job or right?
Yes. So I officially left my job in January of 2020. Not knowing what 2020 was going to look like for all of us. So it was really funny. When I left, I actually thought to myself, okay, I'll start up this passion project that I have and I'll give myself kind of 6 months to do it. And then maybe I'll still do some part-time consulting work while I built up the business. That was kind of the plan I had when I left my corporate job. And obviously, the pandemic hit in March of that year. And so my plans changed very quickly because it meant that I wasn't really going to be able to be looking for a part-time job in that environment. But also, the business actually took off really quickly from our launch in July of 2020. And it meant that I really actually didn't want to and couldn't afford to find the time to actually do anything but focus on the business. So yes, it launched. It was my COVID baby. It launched in the COVID year, which was not the intention, but actually it wasn't too bad a time for us to be launching what's an online business and an activewear label.
Okay, great. So what inspired you to create the line? Because it's very colorful. It has a very like happy-go-lucky effect on it. So what was the story behind that?
Well, so when I left that job, I knew I wanted to do something that I would be passionate about. And I knew that was about empowering women, celebrating women, helping women to really step into and own their power and their strength, because that's something I've always been passionate about. Like at the age of 10, when the internet was new to the world, I set up like a blog, a community site that was called Gals Rule, and it was all about connecting girls from all across the world about how awesome we are. So, it's always been something that has been a part of me and my identity. And so I knew that when I left my job, fast forward into my adulthood, that it was something I wanted to do still was around female empowerment. I also am a woman who has lived through an eating disorder for most of my 20s, where I had a really unhealthy relationship with food and exercise. And, as I mentioned, I have my daughter and I looked at her, she was just a little baby toddler then. And I thought to myself, I never want her to feel the way about her body that I felt about my body in my childhood and my early adolescence. And so that became what I decided would be my passion, helping more women and helping more mums to really celebrate and embrace their bodies, and hopefully through that and through their families change that future of body positivity for the next generation as well. And in a way, activewear is just a vehicle. It's the product that I've chosen to carry this message of body positivity, because we believe that exercise is something we should do because we love our bodies, not because we hate them. And the colorful clothing is a representation of that. When you put it on, the colors just make you feel happy when you're wearing them. And that is a way of us, showing up in a body positive space and helping all of the women now in our community to really step out and embrace their bodies.
Okay, that's great. So how does Mama Movement Australia activewear differ from other activewear brands in the market? So there's a lot of competition. So you have competition from PE Nation. And then I think the other influencers also, they have, their own brands and all that. But what is your unique selling proposition, your unique selling point?
Yeah, so activewear is a really highly saturated market. I mean, in Australia, but I think globally is quite a saturated market. And I suppose the reason why we've been able to grow so quickly and stand out in what is a sea of activewear online is that, one, we're a really visual brand. So if you look at the activewear that we have, as you mentioned, it's really bright and colorful. We partner with local artists on all of the prints that we feature onto our clothing. And so in a way, people have already said to me that when they see a pair of colorful leggings walking down the street, it's very instantly recognizable that that's a Mama Movement piece. So I think our visual identity is really clear. And our message around body positivity is something that a lot of women have really wanted to get behind. Body positivity and exercise is an activewear is something that is still quite unique. Like most activewear brands, they'll be by, I don't know, a content creator, influencer who is a size 6 or 8 body, and all of the models on the website are a size 6 or 8 body. And what we do with our activewear is we actually invite women from our community, everyday women who have a diverse range of body shapes and sizes and ethnicities, to model for us. And that is something that's been really well received as well by our community, something they want to get behind because they want to see themselves reflected in the social media pages that they're looking at, in the websites that they're shopping from, that they feel included in that it's not just one body that is suitable for activewear.
Okay, coming to that, it's a great segue to my next question. Can you talk to me about the design process for your activewear?
Sure. So I guess there's two parts to designing our activewear collections. The first is the functional design. So that's really around designing the styles and the fit of the activewear. And so when I do that, I really consider very deeply all of the things we know about our customer, all of the pain points that they might have with their activewear today in their clothing today, all of the features that are actually really important for them. And I take all of that into consideration as I then start to plan out what is our future of product styles that we'll be bringing into the range. So for example, because we know we're designing really for mums as our primary audience, although you don't have to be a mum to wear the activewear, but because that's our primary audience, knowing that mums and the effect that pregnancy can have on our core support and our bodies, extra high-waisted, supportive, compressive waistbands are a key feature of our activewear. And we know that people hate the scrunched up padding that they have in their sports bras. We've sewn in all of the pads into our sports crops. So again, really thinking about the functional design of that and designing it, by a woman for women and our women's bodies. We also obviously have to go through a really rigorous process around grading of the patterns across sizes, because we carry quite an inclusive size range. Through most of our products, we carry 8 sizes, extra small to 4XL. And so really being very detailed around how we make sure that we create sizing that will fit real women's bodies in all their different shapes and sizes. And that's, I guess, a technical part of the design. And then the second part of it is a really fun part. So this and this is my favorite part, is choosing all of the prints and colors that each seasonal collection will focus on. So as Mama Movement, as I mentioned, we work with local Australian female artists to co-create the artwork that is on our activewear. And that's a really fun part of the process for me, because it means I get to work with other creatives and really bring visions to life together about what a really colorful activewear piece might look like and how we kind of put colors together to form a collection.
So you work with freelance artists and buy their artwork, and
That's right. So I license the artwork from these artists. And sometimes it might be a piece of art that they've already created that I go, that would look amazing on a pair of leggings. And so I talk to them about licensing the design for them for a period of time so that I can use that and print it on our leggings. And other times it might be that I've got an idea or a concept in my head for a message or a type of artwork that I would love to see on our activewear. And I'll look for the type of artist that I think could bring their vision to life, and I'll work with them on that piece of artwork and either, again, buy it from them or license it from them for a set amount of time.
so you talked about grading and stuff. It looks like were you a fashion person before this in your corporate career? Like, you're pretty, like, well planned, So normally people just go into the business not knowing about grading and stuff, but you mentioned the word grading. So I'm just wondering, what was your background before?
I did not work in fashion. I do not have, and this is an imposter syndrome thing for me, I do not have accreditations or qualifications in fashion, but I am always making sure that I work with people who do. So my pattern maker is someone who I work with and will help me to translate kind of the really dodgy drawings that I make of styles and features that are important to me. And she will help me to turn them into technical specifications that our manufacturers can work with. So I went through a really deep dive into understanding how we manufacture and design clothing, right from the get-go when I decided this was going to be the area that I was going to be working and creating a business in. And I spoke with and met with lots of different people from the fashion industry to kind of absorb and learn all of that, and lots of online learning as well, because this wasn't my background. I worked in financial services, June. This is completely far away from where I came from in my corporate job.
Awesome. Okay, so we have what were some of the challenges you faced starting Mama Movement Australia, and how did you overcome them? So you started it in July 2020?
Yeah, officially launched in July. Obviously, we've been working on it for mostly the first 6 months of the year after I left my job. I quit my job and I went into it really intensely for 6 months, and we launched officially in July of that year. And in a way, starting the business was the easy part because there was no risk. Like, it was just me at home with 2 boxes of leggings and 2 boxes of sports bras on the floor of my garage, right? And just me at my computer. And so the risk was really low. And I guess if I think about the challenges that we faced in the last 3 years, it actually has been scaling up the business, because that is actually the harder part, because we grew as a business so quickly that I had to very quickly learn not just how to start up a business, but how to scale up a business. And inventory management for a product-based business is a really significant challenge. I think the cash flow management is everything in a product-based business. You have to be paying for all of your stock upfront. That's manufacturing the stock. That's your freight cost to get it sent from, we manufacture with some ethical factories in China. So the cost of getting that here, we pay for all of that as well once they're finished, before we even make a sale. We do the artist cost, that we pay the artists that we license the patterns for, or the prints for our activewear. Photography costs, all of these costs come up front before you even start making a sale from that new collection. So cash flow is a really tricky challenge, and it's a really fine balance, because you might think something's going to sell really well and really quickly, and then actually it's a slow burn, and so you've invested all of this money up front that you only slowly see the results coming in. And other times it goes the other way. Like, I would order a batch that I think, I think this will last us 3 to 6 months, and then like 2 weeks ago we launched a collection like that I thought was going to last us 3 months, and it sold out in 10 minutes. So you never know sometimes what's going to happen and how well received something is going to be. And that's where I think the balance is that we're still trying to get right. Like the inventory and the cash flow management is that's the biggest challenge, I think, for us as we scale up as business.
So this was personally funded when you started?
That's right. I mean, I had worked in a corporate career for 10 years. I had long service leave banked up, and actually I was able to get myself a redundancy also at the time of leaving. So I funded myself, I backed myself, I put a set money aside from my payout and my savings, and I said, this is how much I have to start the business, and this is how much I have to actually kind of pay myself for, at the time I thought 6 months, until I then, did both Mama Movement as a side hustle and probably doing some part-time consulting work on the side, because I had kind of consulting and design experience through my corporate work. Obviously, it all changed really quickly, because when we launched the business, it launched in the time of pandemic, and it launched so quickly and grew so fast that actually all of the plans I had financially changed instantly overnight. But yeah, it was self-funded from the start, and now it's funding itself in terms of we haven't really had to get additional capital put into the business, because the sales have been enough for us to continue to grow the business. It's self-sustaining.
Awesome. So, okay, how has the response been since the launch? So I know it's really great, but were you taken aback by the response?
Yeah, I was. And I mean, I mentioned, we launched in July of 2020. Now I'm in Melbourne, where we were in 200 days of lockdown in 2020. And I think in hindsight, even though obviously I would never, ever want anything like that to happen ever again, it actually wasn't the worst time to be launching an online e-commerce business, and especially an activewear label, because everyone was at home in activewear and everyone was looking for a bit of joy to bring into their day. And so a really happy, colourful Mama Movement parcel was a bit of joy that they could order online and get delivered, the next week. And so the response and growth of Mama Movement actually really blew me away. I mean, as I mentioned, we started with literally 2 boxes of leggings, 2 boxes of sports bras on the floor of my garage. That first year of business, we had a turnover of over $300,000 in that first year. So it was fast. It grew really, really quickly online. And, we've been able to back that up, with that really fast first year growth. We've still been able to do over 50% growth in the second and third years since. So we're growing really, really quickly. We moved after the second year out of the garage into a commercial warehouse, which is where I am today. And now I have a team of 5 mums. So it's been amazing. The response to it, I think people really resonate with the message that we're trying to spread around body positivity, and people want to be a part of that with us. So yeah, it's been really wonderful.
Great. So can you talk about the impact that your activewear is making in the fashion industry, especially in Australia?
Yeah, I'm really proud actually of the impact we're making in the activewear industry in Australia. Last year, we won an award for the Raw Making a Difference Award, was the award we won. And we won that because of our very uniquely body positive approach to activewear. As I mentioned, you see women of all different shapes, sizes, and ethnicities all wearing bright, colorful, happy outfits on our website, on our social media. The other day, we had a customer email us, and she said that she had tears coming down her face when she looked at our website, and she could see a woman who had a body shape that looked like hers. And that was massive for her. She never had that before when looking for leggings, and looking for sports bras. So I think we are really proud of this. We're proud of the impact that we're making in showing that a strong and healthy and beautiful body comes in many different shapes and sizes and colors. And I'm hoping that, in what we're doing, in the response that we're getting, that other fashion labels are going to start to take notice that and try to photograph, like we do, real everyday women and not just one sample size.
Oh my God, that's really good. So how do you see Mama Movement Australia evolving in the next few years? So are you looking for external funding? What's the plan? How do you want to move ahead?
I will be honest and say we have been approached by people who want to fund us. And in a way, I've held off and I've said no. One, because so far we've been able to fund ourselves in the growth, through the growth that we've had, in our business already. And I have very big dreams for the business because, someone once asked me whether I want this business to kind of stay as a small business or do I want it to grow and be a really big business. And I said to them, I started this business on a mission to start a movement of body positivity, and it would be doing a disservice to that mission if I didn't want it to reach as many people as possible. So yes, I have dreams of it being big, but I also don't want to do that in a way that's not sustainable for myself and our team as a business. And I had a baby last year as well, June, in May. And so it's been a wild ride for me as the founder of this very rapidly growing business while also growing my family. So in a way, I've wanted to keep the growth at a pace that I feel like I can still manage that while managing what's happening with my family life at home and also the impact on the team that I have. They're all mums at the moment that I employ. And so wanting to make sure that we build the team, build the business in a way that we're growing and we're still growing really quickly, but we're not going so quickly that it's hurting us or it's hurting our customer experience in the process. I do see that in the future though, that we could be a really big business, but I think I want us to get there in stages rather than trying to rush at it too quickly.
Okay, great. So what would your advice be for aspiring entrepreneurs who want to start a clothing line? So there's a lot of people, they start clothing line because they think it's easy, but it's not. But you've done it successfully with no background on fashion. So what will be your hot tips for them?
I mean, I think obviously with the technical side, if you don't have the expertise like I don't have, I guess I do kind of have some expertise now, but I didn't when I first started, is really making sure you're then working with people who do, because manufacturing clothing is a really technical job. You might think, oh, it's just a t-shirt, it's just a pair of leggings. It's actually really technical in the way you have to design and create the technical packs for that so that someone can actually take that and manufacture it. So that part of it, obviously, I'm having to learn that. But I think in a way, in today's day and age, that's easier because you have access to that all over the world, globally, quite easily. I think the part that for me has been the reason why we're successful and why we've grown so quickly is because we have a really clear why behind our business. Like, it's more than just clothing. We're not just selling leggings. We're selling a movement that people want to get behind. We're selling a message of body positivity that people get excited about, that people believe in, that people want to see succeed, that people want to tell their friends and family about. And I think that's why we've been able to grow, is because we've really been able to build online, because it launched through Instagram and social media, and that's still our primary source of growth today. We've been able to build a community that believes in what we do and also loves the clothing because it's really obviously like high quality, etc. But it's really the mission that I think is why we've been growing, because they want to tell all their friends about it. They want to tell their family about it. They want to post pictures of themselves online in their outfit that they just received from Mama Movement. And that's, I think, been the reason why we've been able to grow. And that's the advice that I give to people wanting to start a clothing line, is really think about why you're doing it. And what is the message behind the clothing brand that you want people to get on board and understand about your business? Because it's not just a dress, it's not just a top, it's something more, and that has to come through.
Yeah, I just thought of this question. Did you have a business plan when you started?
I did have a business plan. I went through the process of writing down what I thought would happen around the timeline. And this is where I mentioned my 6 months of like, maybe I grow the business and then I would find a part-time job to make sure I've got income, because I know, like everyone says, and you listen to any business podcast and they will say to you, it takes 2 years to turn a profit for a business in most cases. And I kind of thought at the time, and I'll be really honest, I was making more money than my husband because I was in a really well-paying corporate job. And so I thought, okay, I have to start this business because I need to, in my soul, I needed to do it. But I also still need to make money for my family, for my mortgage, you know? And so I had a plan. And I had written things down around what I thought was going to happen. That just flipped overnight when we grew so successfully and so quickly that it's been I feel like I can almost never plan for what's going to happen with the business because it has a momentum that kind of happens and grows almost on its own as well. But obviously making sure that we're still looking forward and making short-term plans. I don't have a 5-year plan, but we have short-term plans for what we do in terms of collection launches and where we want to grow, which channels we want to move into. And then the good thing is we're still kind of we're still considered a small business, even though we're growing, we're still considered a really small business compared to the big players out there, is then also being really agile about that plan. So looking at it, figuring out what's happened with the last collection, going, okay, what went really well? And let's do more of that really quickly because we're a small business, we're agile. But also what didn't go so well and making sure then we tweak the plan for the collections that are upcoming based on the learnings that we've had.
Okay, but what about, you said just now you launched on social media, but does it mean paid ads, sponsored ads, or?
It took us about a year and maybe 16, 18 months before we started properly running ads. So the entire first year and a half of launching the business, we did not run ads. We were purely organic social media, predominantly through Instagram. So that was me, right from the start of before we even officially launched, starting to build an audience. Now, I was not an influencer, so I did not have a pre-existing audience to launch this brand to, like some lucky people do. I did not have that. And so I built this audience up. So right from the beginning, when I was starting to design the product, look for the artists, get the early samples in, test them, I started sharing all of that online. And that started to build a community of an audience that was interested in seeing how someone went from an idea in their head to an actual clothing label that was live and launched. And so that was how we did it, very organically through Instagram, and our stories and sharing lots of behind the scenes, our first photo shoot. That was super exciting. And then all of the collection launches since. And we still do a lot of behind the scenes sharing on our social media. We have a private Facebook VIP group now as well that I share a lot more behind the scenes stuff with. And yeah, it really took us quite a long time before we actually even started running ads, because I do believe that you have to be able to find your people first organically before you can then use ads to really boost that presence.
Okay, great. So, finally, where can our listeners find out more about basically purchase Mama Movement Australia? I know there's a website. Okay, I'm going to link that in, but are you going on any of the stores like Myers, David Jones, anything like that? So what's the plan?
It's on our list to start looking at, one of our priorities for 2023 is actually getting into physical stores. We are an online e-com brand, and that's been, and that probably will always be our main place that you can find us, as you mentioned, www.mamamovement.com.au. But we are hoping to get into some stores soon. We're going to be at the Big Design and Finders Keepers markets as well this autumn. So that's really exciting. But really, to find us online, because that's where we live, that's where we play, that's where we share lots of our fun content online. And that's, where most people actually tend to find us first, fall in love with us, and find our website.
Okay, thank you. That's all the time that we have for today. Thank you, Faye, for joining us on dailystraits.com and sharing your inspiring story with us. To our listeners, be sure to check out Mama Movement Australia website at mamamovement.com.au and follow them on social media for updates and inspiration. And as always, thank you for tuning in to dailystraits.com. We'll be back soon with more inspiring stories and interviews.